And a very good morning to you. It's John Fradgley from the Bell Legal Group, back with you for another program of The Law and You. It's your opportunity to get free legal advice. All we need you to do is telephone right now. 55208888 is our number. That's 55208888. If you're south of the Tweed River, don't forget to put 07 in front of the number. And if you want to send us a question by by email, which we'll deal with next week, we can't deal with them immediately on air. Talkback@4crb.com is our email address. So that's talkback@4crb.com. But the number right now, 55208888. And we have Suzanne, who's very quick out of the box. Good morning, Suzanne. How are you today?
Yes, good morning. I hope you can give me some advice. I'm booked on a cruise with Princess called the Pacific Circle Cruise, which goes on the 15th of April. This cruise would have gone right up to China, Japan and everything, then Alaska. So it only goes for quite a few years, and a lot of people was waiting to do it. But now they've cancelled the Asian sector, and the people that were just going there got fully refunded plus 20% future credit. But the rest of us said if we cancel this cruise, then we do not get any money, and we feel this is not the Pacific Circle cruise anymore, and what they've replaced with the Asian sector is just a few island ports, and most of us spent $50,000 for two to do this cruise, and seeing that the others were allowed to cancel, they just went to Japan, and we're not allowed to do this, made us all very angry, or most of us. So Princess then gave us a carrot that we could use this money in the next 2 years as a future credit. But we again feel, because it does say in the contract, if you they can change the itinerary of this cruise, but it's no longer the Pacific Circle cruise. They say that now it's the exotic cruise.
Yes.
Are we covered at all legally that we can continue to try and get our money back?
Well, look, what I would recommend that you do, Suzanne, it certainly sounds to me that you're not getting what you bargained to purchase. A lot of these things very much depend on the terms and conditions of the contract. But the other side of that is that the vast majority of people don't read those terms and conditions very closely. What I would say, did you book it through a travel agent?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And I've asked her to, and she went to Prince and they said no refund, just that we get our future credit, and the port charges they will have to give to us in cash. But the rest, and this is what quite a few people they've written have received, that no. But
Yes.
the thing is, what we're a bit worried about, or I don't know, first of all, they were only going to do it to 2021 that they held our money. But now it's to 2022, but we must tell them by the 31st of March, and the cruise goes on the 15th. And I'm concerned if we do accept that after we've accepted all that they're going to cancel the cruise anyway, because in the USA they don't want anyone to travel by cruise ship at the moment if you're an older person, and this is an older person cruise. So
Yes, well, I think there are a number of factors in relation to this, Suzanne. Whereabouts on the Gold Coast do you live? Which suburb do you live in?
Burleigh Waters.
Burleigh Waters. Look, what I would suggest you do initially is call the Consumer Affairs Department. Have you got a pen handy, and I'll give you their number?
Yep.
So their number is 137468.
Got it, yep.
137468. Give them a call and just have a chat to them in relation to it. I'm very surprised that that they would be doing this, because Princess Cruises have certainly been in the press for all the wrong reasons in recent times, with the Diamond Princess in Japan and then the Grand Princess in the United States. I would have thought they'd be bending over backwards trying to have satisfied customers. So what I would suggest you do is speak to Consumer Affairs, and hopefully they should be able to steer you in the right direction. It may also be a matter for under the Australian consumer law. I would suggest speak to them and just see what they have to say and how they can help you. And by all means, call back if it's still a problem.
Thank you very much for your help.
Okay, Suzanne.
Much appreciated. Bye.
All the very best. Time on 4CRB, just coming up to 11 minutes past 9. That's, of course, past 10 on the Tweed. The Law and You is the program, 55208888, the number. And we say a very good morning to Dave. G'day, Dave. How are you?
Good, John. And yourself?
Very well indeed. How can I help you today?
Mate, what it's to do with wills.
Yep.
What my concern is, if I'll leave and we want to leave money to our daughter and our grandchildren, our grandchildren from her.
Right.
But she has married a fella who's been married before and has an extended family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we do a will that she and her children get it, not his extended family?
Right, okay. Were you intending to leave it just straight outright to your daughter and the grandchildren, or were you intending to leave it initially to your daughter and then she would provide for the grandchildren?
Yeah, well, see, what happens is we've got two children, a boy and a girl. We're just going to leave it to equal partners. But
equal parts.
Equal parts, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we're thinking, well, we don't really want, I know it sounds pretty bad, we don't really want his extended family to get it if anything happens to her. Yep.
No, look, I fully understand that. And I mean, it's not, I wouldn't be feeling too bad about it, Dave, because quite frankly, it's not an unreasonable expectation that your estate should basically stay within your bloodline. Without going into the value of your estate, but one of the things that you could look at is in relation to the share of the estate going to your daughter, and in fact, you could consider this for your other child as well. Is it a boy or a girl? Your other child?
A boy.
Right. And how old are the grandchildren?
The new ones are 5 and 3, I think.
Okay. All right. So, look, a thing that might be worth your looking at here would be to set up a testamentary discretionary trust for the benefit of your daughter and your grandchildren, because you could provide in that trust that the beneficiaries of the trust can only be bloodline relatives. So, in other words, the estate can only go to children who are bloodline, or grandchildren who are bloodline.
So that was called a testamentary
discretionary trust. And discretionary trust. And depending on your son's position, it might be a good idea to set one up for him. There are a number of advantages of using testamentary trusts. If they're set up properly, one thing that they can do is assist with quarantining assets in any future family breakdown. So if your daughter and her new husband, for example, were to split up somewhere down the track, then the assets, if the testamentary trust has been properly set up, the assets there may be regarded only as a financial resource rather than a matrimonial asset, which means that they would not go into the matrimonial pool for division purposes. The other thing is that there are some quite good advantages for infant beneficiaries. So if you've got young children, like you mentioned, under a normal family trust, an inter vivos family trust that you set up during your life, you can only allocate approximately $416 to an infant beneficiary before they're taxed at the top marginal rate. But through a testamentary discretionary trust, infant beneficiaries are treated the same as ordinary adult taxpayers. So with the low income allowance, they can receive close to $20,000 in income a year before they're going to pay any tax at all. Now, that all would depend, though, on how much income that trust would generate. So it doesn't automatically assume that they're going to get $20,000 a year tax free, because there may not be enough income in the trust to pay that. The other thing that can be done too is that sometimes people think, oh look, this is just going to tie the money up too much, etc. But one of the things that can be done with a testamentary trust is that the testamentary trust can actually loan money to your daughter, for example, to pay down the debt on the home, and it can be secured by mortgage over the property, interest-free. But the advantage is that, again, if the marriage were to break down, that amount that's been paid under the mortgage would be a liability of the relationship and would have to be repaid to the testamentary trust.
Right. So, I mean, that any assets we then put into the testamentary trust, it's sort of like just being put into a bank, isn't it?
Yes, it's basically, and just bear in mind, Dave, that a testamentary trust doesn't come into existence until you pass away. So there's no, it's not like you've got this trust that's set up and all of a sudden you've got problems with your own funds. The trust does not come into existence until your passing, and it is only at that time, after the administration of the estate is complete, that the assets then pass into the testamentary trust and are looked after by the trustees who are appointed to look after the testamentary trust.
Now, this has to be put into the will itself, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, so the will would have a provision in it saying that, I leave one half of my estate to the executors under your will may be the trustees of your will. So it may say, I leave one half of my estate to my trustees to hold on trust for the Adeline Jones Testamentary Discretionary Trust. And on the terms of the schedule contained in the will. And the schedule will set out all the terms and conditions of the trust, and those terms and conditions would normally be the same for the multiple trusts that are set up. So the will itself is actually no longer than a normal will, but but the addition of the schedule does add quite a number of pages, but you only need one schedule regardless of whether you put one trust, two trusts, three trusts or four trusts, unless there are specifics you want to apply to a particular trust.
Right. It sounds very technical.
Look, it sounds complicated, Dave, but I can assure you that the implementation of it is quite straightforward. So the preparation of the will is quite straightforward. Certainly a more expensive will than just your standard mums and dads will. But it's basically like an insurance policy. You probably pay, $1,000 or $2,000 a year in house insurance in the hope that your house will never burn down.
Correct.
You'll have a one-off premium to pay, which is the legal fees of getting this will set up. But once you've paid those fees, unless there's a catastrophic change in your family circumstances, you wouldn't need to worry about redoing that will.
I imagine.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Much appreciated.
Okay, Dave. All the very best. The time on 4CRB is just 18 and a half minutes past 9, past 10 on the Tweed. We'll be back after this word from our sponsor.
Harvey Norman South Tweed deliver anywhere and they guarantee to beat any genuine competitor's price. And if you want good old-fashioned service, then Harvey Norman South Tweed is the place to shop. Their specialised staff will give you the best advice for your needs. With a great range of computers, furniture, bedding and electrical, there is no need for you to shop anywhere else. Why don't you go and see the friendly staff at Harvey Norman South Tweed, because customer service is their priority.
Go, Harvey, go.
Another sponsor.
It's back after another sellout international tour. Songs in the Key of Motown, Friday the 13th of March at Twin Towns. Bringing back the very best soul and Motown grooves direct from Las Vegas. 8 world-class soul singers perform this outstanding tribute to the legends of Motown. It's the golden harmonies of the Temptations. It's the dance moves of the Jacksons and the Supremes. It's the soul music smash. Songs in the Key of Motown. Book at twintowns.com.au.
Another sponsor.
And you're with 4CRB 89.3 FM. The program is The Law and You. It's your opportunity to get free legal advice. The phones are presently clear, so if you have a question or a query for this morning, get on that telephone right now. You'll get straight through 55208888. And while we're waiting for some calls to come through, there were a few things that I was trying to talk about last week, but didn't get the time to because we had a number of calls coming in. But one was just a comment on how active ASIC and the ACCC have been over recent years in relation to their prosecution of people and companies for inappropriate behaviour. And one which comes to mind was the former director and founder of CleanMade, who on the prosecution of ASIC was recently sentenced to 9 years imprisonment for insolvent trading, amongst other things, whilst a director of CleanMade. And you may remember CleanMade, of course, was an appliance company, I think from memory, based on the North Coast, on the Sunshine Coast, and made well-regarded household products, washing machines and dishwashers, those sorts of things. And I believe that a lot of the problem with CleanMade was that they were accepting deposits for equipment, etc., knowing full well that there was not going to be any ability to complete the orders. And that was one of the issues that surrounded the severity of the sentence involved. I did comment last week on email scams and just the fact that you need to be very vigilant. If you get an email that sounds too good to be true, then it is. The other thing too that you need to really watch out for, and I was checking emails at home this morning, and I noted on our home email address we had an email which appeared to be from a friend of my wife. And one of the things when I see an email which looks a bit strange is that I always put the mouse or the cursor on the name that the email has come from. And, for example, this email said it was from Jane, and yet when you put the cursor on that name, it showed up a completely different email address, and it was in fact from California, or it had .ca, which I think is California. And so it was quite clear that it wasn't an email from my wife's friend at all, and my wife mentioned that she's been getting a number of these emails and just deleting them immediately. So if you click on the attachment to those emails, you could be in for a world of pain, because you very well may infect your computer with a virus that's come in through that attachment. So that is something just to be very careful of. And that also leads into the other thing, which is the number of notifications that have been given to the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner about notifiable data breaches, where there have been breaches of people's email accounts, and occasionally we receive emails from other law firms advising that their email account has been breached, and if you receive an email from them, that to please disregard it. And again, what they're doing there is when the email account is breached, they're attaching viruses to the emails they send out to all these other people. And because you're receiving it from John Brown Lawyer, who you have a lot of dealings with, a lot of people would naturally assume it's okay and click on it. And that, again, can cause some really major problems. But enough of that. We've got a couple of callers online. As we say, a very good morning to William. G'day, William. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, John. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thanks. How can I help?
I bought something online in January 10, and
sorry, what did you say? A tent?
No, sorry. The 10th of January.
Oh, sorry, right.
A product online, and it's never arrived. And I keep writing to the international company, who apparently they send these products all over the world, and they haven't got back. I'm just wondering where to go to, because it was about $400.
Did you buy it through PayPal?
No, I didn't. No.
Right, so you paid directly with your credit card?
Yes.
Right. Well, the first thing I'd be doing is contacting if it's an international company and you're just not getting any response from them, I would suggest that you get straight onto your bank in relation to the credit card and see whether they can recall the money from the company's account. On the basis that you've not been paid, because you can put a complaint in saying that you've paid for something but haven't received it. So that's what I would do if I was you. That would be the first point. The other thing that you could possibly do in relation to it would be to contact Consumer Affairs. And speak to them. The other thing to do is to do a search also of the company and just see whether there are any reviews of that company that show that it's either good, bad, or indifferent. So that'd be a few of the things that I would suggest you do.
According to their website, they've got raving reviews.
Yeah, no, don't look at their website. Look at blogs. So look for complaints about XYZ PTY today or something like that, because 9 times out of 10 these companies will put rave reviews on their website, all of which they've written themselves. So, so you've got to be very wary of reviews that are on a website. All right, then.
All right.
But try your bank, and as I say, also try Consumer Affairs. Have you got their phone number?
No, there's no phone number. You can only contact them.
Consumer Affairs.
No, I don't know.
Okay, have you got a pen?
Yes, ready to go. Yeah.
Okay, so their number is 137468. That's Consumer Affairs in Queensland.
468.
137468. All the best, William.
Thank you, John.
Cheers now. And the time is 26 minutes past 9, and sure enough, we've got an absolute flood of calls. So we have Rhonda, Marie and Howard. Please wait online. I'll probably have to take your calls after we come off air. But in the meantime, a very good morning to Michael. G'day, Michael. How are you?
G'day, John. Good, thank you.
How can we help?
I bought a lounge recently, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks. We waited a couple of months for it delivered, paid cash. When it turned up, it's kind of got a bit of damage and it's really not very suitable. It's second-rate damage and it's just crooked. So we approached the company and they've offered, without looking at it, they've offered to give us a credit, but we want a refund. Mm-hmm. Where do we stand with that?
Well, under the Australian consumer law, if the product is not reasonably fit for the purpose that it was purchased, if it isn't, if it doesn't comply with the description that was given of the goods, or it's not the same as the goods that you inspected in the shop, if you inspected it, then under the Australian consumer law, you are entitled to a refund. What I would suggest you do is also contact Consumer Affairs in relation to it, Michael. And so are you in Queensland or New South Wales?
Oh, Queensland, John.
Okay, so their number, Consumer Affairs, is 137468.
Okay.
Now, they would be able to send you material in relation to the Australian consumer law, which will clearly set out what your rights are. Companies will always try and duck and weave, or some will. There are some extremely good traders out there who are more than willing to do the right thing and refund. But sometimes you run into difficult customers or difficult companies, and the test there, of course, is to stand your ground and just make it very clear to them that you know what your rights are under the Australian consumer law, and that if they don't comply, then you'll take the matter to, if you're in Queensland, it would be to QCAT, the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal.
Oh, okay, so that then would be a lengthy drawn-out procedure, I suppose.
Yeah, well, look, try Consumer Affairs first, because sometimes a phone call to the company quoting chapter and verse on what the law is, and when they know you know what your rights are, sometimes they will sort of think, well, look, we'd rather get this sorted out now rather than waste our time, that sort of thing. All right, then.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, Michael, all the very best. Now, we still have Rhonda, Marie and Howard online, so if you can please stay there if you wouldn't mind. We're fast approaching the time for the local news, which of course comes up at 9:30. So thank you to all the people who've called in today and made such an interesting program. I did mention last week that the changes to the power of attorney laws in Queensland were due to take effect from the 31st of March. But just an update on that the commencement date has been delayed, and we presently now don't know what the new date for those changes will be. But as they say in the classics, watch this space. I'm John Fradgley from the Bell Legal Group. It's been great to be with you this morning for The Law and You. I'll look forward to being back with you again next week for another program. But as always, until then, it's goodbye and God bless.